Welcome to what may be the first of many videos about talking about things in games, talking about theories, conspiracy theories even, about what things are going on in games, and I figured that I would talk today about, start up with what was arguably the best news, the biggest news out of E3 2014, which was the reveal of the new Legend of Zelda for the Wii U. Eiji Aonuma snapped his fingers, and, well, bibbidi-bobbidi-boo, magic appeared out of nowhere, and we got to see what essentially made me fall backwards in my chair and start sobbing uncontrollably for about 20 minutes. So, as he's been saying for the longest time, Zelda is going to essentially be trying to challenge conventions, challenge what we have come to expect, challenge what defines the Legend of Zelda franchise. As he stated, in the original Legend of Zelda, it was essentially this wide open world where you could just go to where players could travel like anywhere on the map as they so chose. And I mean that philosophy, that game design, carried forward all the way up to A Link to the Past on the SNES. It was with Ocarina of Time, where it was an open world, but it was like segmented. It wasn't just like a cohesive open world. It wasn't what you would like say when it comes to something like Skyrim or something, where even that is actually segmented in some ways. Like, it's not as cohesive as, some of us maybe would want. Well, it appears that maybe with the new Legend of Zelda game on the Wii U, we are going to get that cohesive open-world game. You're going to get an open-world game perhaps with perhaps maybe just a single loading time up front, and then going from there would be no loading times. Like, going from, being able to move from the overworld to a dungeon is just completely seamless. That was something that they promised what might be a thing, and might have been a thing in Skyward Sword, but it turned out to not be so much that, as it was more of a hub world, which then connected to a bunch of smaller areas. But I don't want to talk about that though, because the open world Zelda debate, we've been there. Nobody needs to really think about that. So there's only two things about the new Legend of Zelda game that really needs to be discussed, but one of them I'm not going to, because I feel that it has been beaten to death by everybody and their mother, and that's the concept of what they're not. The person in the trailer is Link, or maybe not Link, or maybe Link is a female this time, who knows. Personally, just to, I guess, clarify my position on it, I would be totally okay if it was not Link, or I also would be okay if Link was a girl this time around. I think that would be totally fine. In fact, I think it would be a breath of fresh air in a franchise that has been so defined by a number of conventions in terms of its plot setup over the years, that to kind of break that mold would be actually really interesting. But what I want to talk about, though, is something that people have not really paid much attention to, and something that, is really hard to miss in the trailer. So, I'm going to bring up a little screenshot here real quick. Pardon the bad quality, it's just that the press shots, the really high quality press shots that were shared with us, they really don't really show much of what I want to point out. It's only available in the trailer, and it moves so quickly that it's hard to get a clear shot of it. So, it basically is a screen capture from the Nintendo Direct, and it's not the best quality. I apologize, but hopefully you will be able to see it well enough to see where I'm getting at with this. So, if you look at, at the scene where Link, not Link, as I am calling him, her now, is riding away from the giant robot monster octopus thing, the horse is actually carrying a lot of equipment on it. Like, it's carrying a shield, a bow, various bags, doodads, stuff like that. That might be a big deal going forward in Zelda, because something that, so he says that he wants to challenge every single one of the conventions in Zelda. And there's been one convention in Zelda that has actually stuck with Zelda since the very first one, and that is the fact that Link has these massive pockets of holding that can just hold all the items that, that he could possibly need, and that he can just pull them out just whenever he wants. I mean, granted, Link can only have a few of them equipped at a time, but Link still has them all on his person at one time, though. Which got really ridiculous in games like Twilight Princess, where he had the ball and chain just shoved into his pocket. It was really bizarre. But what if the horse? Excuse me. What if the horse is your pocket this time? What if the horse is what carries all of Link, not Link's equipment this time? What if Link is forced to perhaps maybe the horse carries all of the items that you find in dungeons and on the overworld, and so what if perhaps you walk up to a dungeon and then you are forced to pick and choose what you can actually carry into the dungeon with you? What if, say, you go to a dungeon that is maybe like a water temple, and so generally speaking, I'm going to assume that Link can equip Link can equip 3 items at once, along with his or her sword and shield, as is the norm now for these games. So, what if instead of just having all the items with you and you being able to equip 3 of them at once, what if all the items are on not Link's horse, and you have to choose which items that you want to bring in the dungeon with you. You can only have 3 of them on your person at once. That would be a big deal, I think. That would be huge. That would add, some really good strategic depth to Zelda. Because, sometimes in Zelda, it's fun to have all the items with you at once, so that you can go into dungeons and just go into overworld and just play around with how certain things work. But it would be more interesting if Link was stuck. If Link could only carry only a few things into a dungeon with him, so let's go with the example again with the water temple. Link can only carry in maybe, let's say, a hookshot, the iron boots, and maybe the bow. That's it. That is all you have for the entirety of that dungeon. And if you want to switch things out, you have to leave the dungeon and then go back to your horse and then switch things around. So I'm thinking is, what if that actually is a thing? What if Nintendo and the team want to perhaps change up that convention? I personally think that would be really, really cool. I think that would allow them to really start, by breaking down the most basic of conventions, the conventions that have been there since the very first Zelda, by breaking those down and changing them. I think that the Zelda team can really begin to morph and mold Zelda into something entirely different, yet is still the same. Because Zelda needs to change. Zelda needs to evolve and become bigger, better. It needs to become the game from my youth. It needs to be the game that I have always imagined myself playing. And as far as the 3D Zelda games go, Wind Waker so far has been the closest to that, but it was too sparse. It was basically just a bunch of islands with the ocean serving as one big loading screen for it, and that doesn't need to happen again. So I want to see something bigger and better and just what we've been waiting for, and I think that by dismantling the most basic of conventions, Nintendo is on to something here. So, anyway, this has gone on too long, so what do you guys think? Do you think that, do you think that Zelda on the Wii U needs to challenge those kind of conventions? Does it need to challenge the most basic of conventions? Do you want to keep on switching out the items that you use with your horse? Does it need to be just a traveling bag of holding? Let me know what you think.